So welcome back everyone. I hope you had a good lunch and are ready for another inspiring afternoon full of sessions. So our next session will be Facility Manager's role in sustainability, resilience and adaptability, and where ISO 41000 standards fit. Please welcome Brent Ward, board member of the IFMA Region Southwest Washington chapter.
Thank you, everybody. As you can see, I've got a few initials after my name. I'm an overachiever, what can I tell you? So I'm here today speaking on behalf of the sustainability community for IFMA, things that they're heavily involved in. Feel free to go to their website and look for the downloads that are available, and especially those on the Knowledge Library. We're partnered with these organizations to help push sustainability forward. These are our sustaining sponsors. We do the Teichholz Scholarship, and these are some of the links that are important for sustainability and the sustainability community, and there's some more website information. So here's what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at kind of do some definitions on what sustainability. My brain just went dead. Sustainability and resilience and adaptability. Man alive, it's lunchtime. My brain's quieting down. Then we're going to provide some context on that, and then we're going to look at the ISO 41000 and see how we as FMs can utilize that to better enhance sustainability, resilience, and adaptability. We're going to do a recap of what we learned, and we'll entertain some questions. So, sustainability, pretty much that definition hasn't changed. We all pretty much know what it is. It's meeting the current essential human needs, social, economic, and environmental, without compromising the ability of future generations to meet theirs. So that includes the triple bottom line: people, planet, and profit. And it requires a balance there between economic stability of your country, your company, and being sustainable and saving the planet. So how do we find that balance? So we've got environmental issues, which are obvious. We've got social issues. There we go. Thought I hit it, but I didn't. Social issues, which are equity and human rights, well-being, health and education for all. And then we've got economic issues, which are having, again, a profitable business model with long-term responsibility towards sustainability. Resilience. This is the one that there are a lot of definitions for it out there. And most of them are accurate in their place. But the resilience that we're talking about today is defined as the capacity of a social, environmental, or economic system to absorb shocks, adapt to change, and reorganize while maintaining its core functions, structure, and identity. So sustainability focuses on the long-term goals, the 2030 and 2050 goals that we have. But resiliency is really it's the mechanism to survive that as we get to those goals, because there will be shocks in the sustainability world. There will be things that we have to overcome, and we have to be resilient to be able to do that. So our adaptive capacity is the ability of systems to learn and adjust as things change and throw a shock at us. So are our systems such that we can grow and learn from them and continue on the sustainability path regardless of what those shocks are? Whether it comes from a government changing direction and what they want to do with sustainability, or whether it comes from a sudden climate change in your area that is changing things. So let's face it, the hotter it gets, the more direct sun there is, has a bearing on your HVAC systems on the roof, it has a bearing on the roof itself, the built environment in general. So are we able to take care of those things? The absorption and persistence is the capacity to withstand those disturbances and continue to develop. So not just staying the same through them, but using them as a means of growth and development in our sustainability goals. The systemic perspective is shifting focus from individual components to the entire interconnected system. So it's not just our department, it's not just our company, it's not just our country, but how it intertwines with the entire global sustainability initiatives and making sure that we can continue as a business even though initiating these. And then there's the 4 R's, which is robustness, resourcefulness, rapid recovery, and redundancy. So being able to absorb those shocks and move forward because of those shocks, being able to be resourceful in finding ways to become more and more sustainable regardless of what is happening around us, and then to continue to function. So adaptability is the capacity of individuals, organizations, and systems to proactively modify behaviors, strategies, and operational practices to navigate changing environmental, social, and economic conditions while ensuring long-term resilience and well-being. So that's a mouthful, but really it's looking long-term but dealing short-term, making sure that what we're doing today makes our built environment better 30 years from now. And being real about that, not just greenwashing it. Back in the early 60s, there was a company, I won't mention the name, but some of you are old enough to remember probably who this was, but the company said, better living through chemicals. And now most of those chemicals that they were claiming were better living through are now banned because they were giving us cancer, et cetera, et cetera. So it's being real as we're being adaptable. So our behavioral and personal level is shifting our habits so that it's part of our thought process of how we can be more sustainable, more resilient, more adaptable within our organization. The organizational level means the entire business being able to alter its path based on changing sustainability needs, desires, and wants of the company and of the government as well. And the systems level, social and ecological systems, is the ability of those systems to manage their own resilience to avoid undesirable, non-sustainable, or collapsed stress. So we have to move in that direction. And then our core principles, this is where it takes an entire mindset change of a corporation to be proactive planning and intentionality in reducing the ecological impact of everything that they do as a company. So in context, there are a lot of things out there that shape what we do with sustainability. The UN's 2030 agenda is huge. The Sustainable Development Goals, those 17 goals, amongst them have 169 targets to hit. So it's very aggressive. But if we're not aggressive, are we really going to meet any sort of goals? We need to be aggressive. Corporate social responsibility, having our C-suite tell us as an organization what they plan on doing, what they're doing as far as sustainability is concerned. And that means, and ESG as well, being self-regulating versus holistic. So we have to regulate internally because the governments are going to vacillate back and forth at what they're going to do. We want to do the right thing for the right reasons, regardless of what is changing around us. And then business and finance. That's where FMs have a direct involvement because we touch virtually every part of the built environment. So everything that we do affects the bottom line of our organization. So can we find more ways to be sustainable that will make our organization more profitable? And we're going to give some examples of that a little bit later on. Right now, in the current marketplace, I was just reading an article yesterday that talked about how insurance companies are now leading the charge to resilience because they're finding that a lot of companies are doing risk assessments and then ignoring the findings. They're not mitigating anything. And they're not doing it with a view to sustainability and long-term success. So the insurance companies are demanding that companies, if they want better rates, have a plan for sustainability and resilience so they can move forward and have that building be of value and insurable 30 years down the road. Climate change. Whether we believe it is or isn't reality, the fact is that what is happening around us today requires change. It requires a mindset change because intense sun changes things. But we've noticed that in a lot of areas things are colder. Look what happened in the mid-US up to the East Coast this year. They're on their, third round of extreme cold and snow. So one area is hotter and another area is colder. Cold just does just as much damage to buildings and infrastructure as heat does. So are we being resilient when we change out any capital equipment so that it can handle the stress of climate change? Are we looking at the integrity of our assets? How will 3 feet of snow on the roof affect the roof? How will it affect the HVAC systems that it is just buried? All of those things need to be taken into consideration as we look at climate change. And then, can we provide consistent services through all of these shocks to the system as things come up and as they rotate through? Net zero. Some, or in a lot of cases, all the responsibility to meet net zero targets falls on the facility management team. It's something that we have to do. These commitments are something that we can't ignore. They're being required by government entities. So we need to make sure that we look at our total operational and embodied carbons so that we can meet the goals that government set. And if they vacillate on that, we still want this to be a big piece of our sustainability and resilience piece. The circular economy. This one is probably the biggest mindset shift that has to take place. And not just in the facilities department, but it really needs to be a corporate mind shift. Because thinking about doing things with the circular economy in mind, on buying equipment that can be reused, recycled, repurposed, is something we don't normally do. How often, we have an HVAC unit that's end of life, and we go up there and we go, oh, well, that's a 25-ton chiller. Great, we'll go buy a 25-ton chiller and replace it. Well, is it going to help our resilience and our sustainability goals? Is it going to enhance what's the people inside the building and their indoor environment that they live in? All of those things now are things that we as facility managers have to take into consideration as we are replacing capital assets. Because it's not just about replacing the asset anymore. It's about how it affects the people in the building, how it affects the planet that we live on, and how it affects future generations that are going to come along. IFMA EMEA posted on LinkedIn yesterday, I believe it was, might have been the day before. I'm totally lost as to what day it even is. What they posted was that the circular economy is not a sustainability ambition, but an operational redesign. Now let that sink in. So it's not just a goal. It is a total mindset change. It is totally re-gearing your brain to think about the circular economy. When you buy office furniture, when you buy HVAC units, the roof that you put on, the carpet you put in the building, all of those things have to be thought about with a view to the circular economy for our sustainability, resilience, and adaptability goals to be met. So now let's define FM. We all think we know what FM means, but let's see what ISO 41000 says that the definition of our job is. It says, as you can see, an organizational function which integrates people, place, and process within the built environment with the purpose of improving the quality of life of people and the productivity of the core business. That's a lot of weight on our shoulders, isn't it, when you think about it? It's a lot of weight. And it's because of that, facilities managers are starting to garner more respect in the C-suite than they used to because of the effect that we are having on all of these things, on retaining people inside the building, on getting people to even come into the building at all. All of those things are involved. So this definition gives us a context for addressing the challenges of sustainability, resilience, and adaptability. Achieving that kind of transformational change is not something that you can just spitball and put down on a sticky note somewhere in the corner and call it good. It requires your entire organization transcending their current position on sustainability and how they're going to get there, to include circularity, to include the SDGs, to include how they treat people and the environment that they work in. That whole mindset has to change, and it requires a commitment. Again, it can't just be, yes, we want to do this. It has to be, yes, we want to do this, and here's what the C-suite says our goals are going to be, and a map to get there. Now, in a lot of companies, they're not really concerned about sustainability that much. They'll do what the government requires them to do and not much more. But does that mean that as a facility manager, we don't have to do anything? No, we really still should. We should take charge, take the lead in our organization, in our department, and all of the capital expenditures that we make in making sure that even if the company doesn't have those types of goals, or they're very basic, that we exceed that and show them how sustainability, resilience, and adaptability has an ROI. It will come back positively to the company and to their bottom line. Because we affect so much in an organization, we can make those changes and we can have a major effect on how the corporation operates. Especially since we have interactions with a lot of government agencies, we have interactions with every department within the organization, so everything that we do is felt and affected by all of those individuals and organizations. So this is the role in ISO 41000 of facilities managers. These are the things that aligning ourselves with ISO 41000 will help our organizations to do. How many here have read the 41000 series of standards? Nice, more than I thought, but that's great, that's great. How many, and you don't have to raise your hands if you don't want to on this question, how many felt that they were very specific and easy to follow? Yeah. It's a guideline. It's for all industries. You have to adapt it for your organization. Are you a manufacturer? Are you an all-office building? Are you a medical facility? It will morph for you, even by following it, based on your organization. So if we can align ourselves with ISO 41000, then we're setting ourselves up for sustainability, resilience, and adaptability, because that is a big piece of that. Whether you're a public or private sector, it's immaterial. That standard can help you grow. And let's face it, having a structured approach to anything is better than shooting from the hip, right? Gets better results, lasts longer, and it's more impactful. So what are our next steps? Well, we need to have an impact analysis. By shooting for these goals and shooting for these targets, what is the impact going to be? And then we have to set the targets. And let's be aggressive with those targets. You know, if everybody says, well, you know what, I'm gonna get 10 steps in today, and I don't care what happens, I'm gonna get, really? You can't even get from your bed to the bathroom in less than 10 steps. So set an aggressive step. That doesn't mean 100,000 steps in a day. But nonetheless, set something that actually makes you get out there and do the work. And the same thing goes with goals. And then regular reporting so that others see what you're doing and can offer direction and insight, but also so that you can see the progress over time. Organizational reputation can be enhanced by what we do as FMs. Because let's face it, if we're a manufacturer, it's likely that we have more pollutants than an office building does. So if we can do things that make us more sustainable, resilient, and adaptable, that cleans up the environment in and around our facility, do you think that the community is going to notice? Yeah, they are. You think the governments are going to notice? Yeah, they are. So that enhances our organization's reputation. It enhances their compliance so that the regulators aren't coming down on them for things. And it affects operational efficiency. Because if the indoor air quality is better because of the more sustainable and resilient equipment that you put on the roof, then that means everybody inside the building is more productive than they were before. So look at your key initiatives. Start with the low-hanging fruit. Let's not go swinging for the fences at first, but start with the low-hanging fruit. Energy efficiency, Kratel, we've all turned all of our facilities over to LED lighting by now. But look at waste management and how we procure things. Again, we can do that within our department, even if the rest of the organization isn't aligned with that yet. We can make sure that everything we purchase is as sustainable as it possibly can be, that it fits within the circularity of things. That's our responsibility. And then the rest of the organization will start to follow when they see the ROI being affected within our organization. So these are just a few things that we can look at, depending on the size of your organization and what you have available. You might not have a cafeteria or anything in your organization, but nonetheless, if you have lunchrooms, what do you do with the food waste? Go to the landfill? Any pig farmers in your area that you can, have it sent out to them so their pigs can eat it? Whatever the case might be, think about ways that as you purchase or as you go to replace things, find ways to reduce, reuse, and recycle, right? We know that saying. So if we implement the ISO 41000 environmental management system, this is what we will see within our organizations. We'll see it at least within our department, even if the rest of the company doesn't subscribe to it. And once everybody sees that, they'll want to follow suit. So get a copy of 41000, read through it, start to implement it if you at all possibly can. Having that structure and goals to lean towards will have a positive environment on your entire organization, but especially on your department. Doing the right thing for the right reason. There's been studies and shown that companies that reach sustainable goals to the point that the government requires them to do not fare as well in their bottom line as companies who go beyond what the government requires and are doing the right thing for the right reason. So, sustainable businesses need the right leadership, the right governance, the right systems, the right procedures, the right controls to make all of this happen. In order to be successful, we have to act in accordance with what's best for the community, what's best for our organization, and what's best for the environment, and balancing that. Governance simply helps ensure that two rights, doing things the right way, keep away the wrong things. So the more things we do for the right reasons, the fewer wrong things that'll creep in. Hudson's Bay, Levant, and East India, companies of that size, when they came into existence, had never existed before. There was no means of governing those companies. Even the governments didn't have any knowledge or ability to do it. So they came up with a system of corporate governance that was introduced. One body, corporate and political, came into effect, and they have the legal identity and form of a corporate shareholders came into play. First time ever. Why? Because the change was so drastic that new forms of governments had to be invented, had to be developed in order for them to move forward as these large corporations that they were. It allowed them to transcend the death of the owner, which was happening in a lot of companies, right? The owner dies, what happens to the company? Well, does the wife want it? Do the kids want it? Maybe, maybe not. But with this system, that changed, where the shareholders had a say, and they chose the leader of the company. So that was a new development because of that. So the same thing applies with sustainability. It's a huge change. It's a transformation. So we need to make sure we have the right governance in place and create new governance to accomplish what we need to accomplish. The dot-com bubble of the 90s, we all remember what happened there. Money was made and money was lost in even bigger numbers. The same thing happened with the Dutch tulip bubble in the 1630s, as well as the South Sea bubble of the 1720s. There were no controls within the financial markets to handle the frenzy that was involved in those three situations. So new governments had to be created for them to be able to handle that. And so it was a little late, but nonetheless, that's what they did. They made the changes to handle it. And so we too have to make those changes within our organization, be able to handle what's happening within the sustainability world. The 1992 Cadbury Report, how many have heard of that? Oh yeah, great. Then you want to come on? No, just so that highlighted that good governance and it provided recommendations on how to raise standards around remuneration for board members. So and the role of those non-executive directors. So it was again an entirely new mindset on how to pay those individuals based on what they were doing. So what is the key? We have to have policies and procedures in place. We have to be adaptable with our policies and procedures as things change, as things morph, as things grow. And as facility managers, we really have to have our head on a swivel because there are so many things that are changing and affect us on a daily basis. So we need to make sure that our policies and procedure within our organization is flexible and adaptable. Unilever, monstrous corporation. The premise of net positive companies will improve the lives of everyone it touches, from customers and suppliers to employees and communities, greatly improving long-term shareholder returns in the process. That's a nice premise. But is it a reality? Does it truly happen? Well, Unilever decided that they were going to take ownership of that they were going to make that happen. So Unilever decided that they were going to positively affect all of the social and environmental things that they could within their organization and their client base and their shareholders. So they realized that the more positive they got in these areas, the more innovation that came from within their organization, and the more it continued to grow in that regard. So they discovered the first step is to reach out to their value chain. Genuinely reach out. Collaborate on how you can make things better. So collaborate with your value chain. How can you as an FM, when you're purchasing new equipment, make things better, make things better for the company, better for ownership. You can't outsource to your suppliers life cycles. You have to take that internally and make sure that your suppliers are complying with where you want to be. And there are often huge rewards for doing so. So Unilever set an ambitious target. They said that they were going to help 1 billion people take action to improve their health and well-being. 1 billion people. Now, how does one company take that responsibility and take that on? Well, they wanted to have their environmental footprint. They decided that they were going to make use of their products as they grew and make them all as sustainable as possible. The result, they achieved the majority of their targets to helping 1 billion people. But while they did it, they increased revenue by 1/3. And the shareholders saw returns increase by 300%. Why? It's because they did the right thing for the right reasons. They did it for people and the planet. So it's a good lesson for us as FMs, that if we do the right thing for the right reasons, the results will come. They will be there. So we want to make sure that we follow that direction and do the right thing for the right reason. And if we're all on our own as a facilities department, don't let that worry you. Continue to do the right thing for the right reason, because remember, a rising tide floats all ships. So eventually your entire corporation that you work for will jump in and follow suit when they see suddenly your budget is better than it used to be. Why? Because you're doing things for the right reason, and therefore you're spending less money. You have things available to fix other things. So that's our subject. Here's our recap. So we defined 4 things today, so we know what they are and how we fit into those things. The context is regarding climate change, net zero, and circularity. ISO 41000 and how it will help us to improve within our department, but also the entire organization if we follow its direction, and help us to become more efficient and more effective. And doing things for the right reason. History, the dot-com bubble, the Hudson Bay Company, Cadbury, all of those things help us to appreciate that if we're doing the right thing for the right reason, if we're looking at the right goals for the right reason, that the good results will come and we will be rewarded for it. There's my source material where I got all of this information. If you haven't read that book, and I don't get a commission from recommending it, it is an excellent book to read if you haven't read it. It talks all through it about doing the right thing for the right reason and why that's valuable to organizations. So, appreciate your feedback. Evaluate the session on your mobile app. And thank you. That's my contact information if anybody has any questions or anything of that nature. Now, do you have any questions?